Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us today for ARTHALAND's webinar series. Today, we will be presenting the Investing in Green Buildings, and we hope you enjoy this with our speaker today, our SVP, Mr. Oliver Chan. Oliver is a licensed mechanical engineer with 17 years of real estate experience. He is the Senior Vice President of ARTHALAND Corporation, handling sales and leasing. Concurrently, he is also the president and general manager of Emera Property Management, Inc., the property management arm of ARTHALAND. Without further ado, here's Oliver Chan. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for taking time in joining us in today's webinar. This will be short, but in detail in terms of educating everyone who attends what it is like investing in a green building, the positives and the advantages of going into green buildings. The purpose of ARTHALAND has always been not only providing these types of developments to our buyers, but also educating the public and as well as maybe other developers to go into sustainable or green buildings. Now, to talk about the benefits of green developments, there are four, I would say, important benefits. First is operational savings. When we talk about operational savings, we say the electricity and the water consumption or overall energy consumption of the building. Now, with this pandemic happening, a lot of people are now into sustainability and people think of how do we save? And big multinational companies would find a way to save in terms of operational expenses. And green buildings can provide just that. Number two is a healthier planet. Later on, I will go into the wellness factor of each building. But with the COVID pandemic now, I think wellness will be a very important factor for not only for your household, for the condominiums that you purchase or you stay in, but also in the office buildings that you work in. Remember, you spend about 60 to 70% of your day in the office. And with May 16, here in the Philippines, 50% of some industries are now being allowed to go to work. A healthy office workplace is very important. Next is social well-being. Everyone knows that whether you're at home or you're in the office, your environment is very important for you to be able to be more productive. So we will be discussing a little about that as well. Number four is profit growth. Green or sustainable is a value-created brand that can be capitalized when it comes to leasing out your investments, resale, or whatever you want to do with the investment that you have. Now, let's talk about, let's say, for example, your homes. And one important factor is replacing your CFL or your compact fluorescent lamps with LED lights. Yes, it may be a bit more expensive when it comes to initial cost, but end of the day, in the long run, LED lamps have a longer life and uses less energy and power consumption. So the ROI will actually be worth it. Now, if you want to go further, and in office buildings, I believe only a few have implemented this. There's what you call the Lutron lighting system. This is the system that we provided in our office building, ARTHALAND Century Pacific Tower. The Lutron lighting system actually has a sensor built in it, and it adjusts to the lighting condition from the outside. So if you have enough light coming in through the windows, then the lighting system will automatically adjust and dim a bit. And it will give you a certain or specific lighting that you need to be able to work efficiently. Next is low flow fixtures. There are a lot of fixtures out there now that you can buy from any hardware store and from any other supplier. What you have to ask them is not just if this, let's say for example, this water closet has dual flushing. Some dual flushings have different specifications. I think you have to go down deep into the details. Some dual flushing has 6 liters and 3 liter flushing, and some has even less. So you should be able to know what to ask and ask for the specific details. Next is operable windows. Um, Electricity bills of everyone, I would think, during this pandemic has been going up, has been shooting up. Because number one, you're working from home. Most probably, some of you would be using your air conditioning units most of the time because you're stuck in a room and the temperature here in the Philippines have gone up to about 41 to 44 degrees. So it's really not comfortable. So having operable windows is actually very important for you to be able to work efficiently. There's actually this study that came out that for every degree going up from 25 degrees Celsius, productivity of about 4% is reduced from a person. That's big. And if you would want to make sure that your team is working good and working efficiently at home or in the office, operable windows is actually quite important. Now let's talk about solar energy. Solar energy, you need to be able to study well. And the reason I say this is because it doesn't fit each and every industry. You will need to study the space where to put the solar panels, the amount of energy that the panels can create. Can it cover the entire electricity consumption of your home or just the lighting? But yes, it is very effective. The second thing is what we say that you can go to the grid. Going to the grid when you have solar power can actually save you a lot because you're actually selling excess electricity that you produce to the grid. And when your billing comes to you, you will actually see the savings that you will get. It will be deducted from there. Now, next is green certifications. You know, you will see from a lot of advertisements that people are saying that they are green compliant. Being compliant is different from actually getting the certifications because you can just get one aspect of being sustainable and already say that you are compliant. A certification will guarantee that you are compliant in each and every aspect of a sustainability certification. Now let's talk about the office. I would like to start first with the double glazed glass. One important aspect now that I think people are talking about is if you are getting enough sunlight. Every building that has a big, tall glass window can say that they are getting enough sunlight. But does it allow heat to come in? That, I think, is the bigger question. Because if you have the sunlight but also have too much heat coming into your office space, then number one, this decreases productivity. Number two, it makes your air conditioning work harder, thus bringing up your electricity expenses. So what this means is that double glazed glass allows heat to go in, allows light to go in, but prevents heat. So it minimizes the heat that goes into your building. And there are some building, and our building, for example, in BGC has triple glazed glass. So in terms of indoor temperature and lighting levels, it is better than any that you can find. Next would be rainwater recycling. What this does is, for example, irrigation or water flushing. Anything that would not touch the skin of a human being can use recycled water. And this will save you a lot. And as you all know, we already have a situation currently that we are using the reserves of the dams in terms of water, and people are afraid. And some areas actually, or some cities already have water problems we're in, like say, let's say, for example, 2 to 5 p.m., they don't have any water. And that is a reason even more to conserve in terms of water. Now, energy efficient air conditioning units. You may think that any type of air conditioning unit is the same, but if you dive down to the specifications, some may be more expensive, but can save you a lot. And it also allows you to give flexibility in terms of turning off a few units if you don't really need it. Zero carbon building. It, it is important that we use renewable energy. And for us, for example, we go for hydropower plants. And there is that option nowadays. You don't have to get your electricity directly from Meralco. You can actually get it from hydropower plants that can actually even give you a lower rate. Now, this is an advantage for some office buildings that actually have that luxury of option to do so, because these electricity or power providers go for the big buildings and those who will able to consume a minimum amount. Another is what I mentioned earlier about selling the solar power that you get to the grid. And next, I would like to talk about the certifications. You may ask, what is the difference of LEED from EDGE, right? Why are you getting 2 certifications or 3 certifications? Isn't it that you're just doing this for show? Is this just a badge for marketing? To dig in deeper, LEED actually focuses on an overall process. From the time you start your design to the construction, they actually even monitor your construction and have a checklist of where do you dispose the waste? How do your workers treat safety and security? So it's that deep. And when it comes to this design of the building, it talks about making sure you provide the bicycle racks and the shower enclosures and areas for people who use bikes so that they can take shower. So it's not as simple as complying with a few items. When you talk about EDGE, it zeroes in more on the efficiency and the savings that you get from power and water. So that is the difference of both. So if it doesn't mean that you're compliant in LEED, that you're also compliant with EDGE. And it is happy for me to say that EDGE is part of the International Finance Corporation of World Bank. And we're the first building in the world to be certified net zero carbon, 100% renewable energy. Now, Verde is by the Philippine Green Building Council. So why do you need this if you already have LEED and EDGE? Both of those. LEED is from the US Green Building Council. So most of the specifications are built and designed based on the US parameters and the way of living and the way of working in the US. EDGE is based from the UK and from London. So some of the standards are based from there as well. That is why we see fit that we go for Verde as well. This is the US Green Building Council counterpart in the Philippines, and so that the LEED provisions are catered and tailored fit to the Philippine environment. Last but not the least, which I think is very, very important now, is the WELL certification. WELL dives into health and welfare of the employees or people living in the building. The thing here is, with this COVID pandemic, people are starting to ask about indoor air quality. And I had this webinar with US agents, brokers, and real estate developers in New York, Manhattan. And one agent brought up, their buyers of luxury portfolio have already started asking, what is the air filtration system in your building? Which most of the developments still don't have. They don't have even monitors of indoor air quality. And with foreign markets starting to ask that question, I believe the Philippine market will follow. And it is time for us to actually go for this standard. Well also goes down to the nutrition of the building occupants. So for example, if you have a canteen inside your building, it will talk about you should have a nutritionist to check out the type of food that your canteen will be able to provide your tenants. Now let's talk about impact to building occupants. It is very important to note that with this pandemic and with social distancing, corporations will need bigger space if working from home is not possible. Why? Because now you can't sit two people side by side for the next 2 or 3 years until a vaccine comes out, which is hard. With that, you will need higher productivity from each and every one. It's still hard to work from home because network in different houses is still not as stable. Security of your data is also still not stable. So people will try to find a way in order to get to the office and work, and thus making efficiency very important. With the proper lighting, reduced sick and stress levels, this actually brings the productivity of your employees from 11% up to about 25%. And the multinational companies are already aware of this possibility. Another thing is it is very attractive to millennials. And this is a study that came out by the Well Building Institute and JLL, Jones Lang LaSalle, that 70% of millennials said they prefer to work in a company with a strong sustainability agenda. 70%. And I believe majority of our workforce today and majority of the talent that you will need to be able to hire to your company are millennials. And they are actually the future of your corporations, of your companies. So it is very important to keep this in mind. Another item is that globally, green buildings continue to increase in demand. Companies, multinational companies, have already required their satellite offices or their outsourced offices to be even LEED accredited. So for your office to be LEED accredited, you need to locate in a LEED office building. To give you another example, a company that we know a lot, Starbucks. A lot of people love Starbucks. And Starbucks is a coffee shop. Think about that. A coffee shop that has already stores, not only in the Philippines, but all over the world that are LEED certified. So this is not just a trend. It will continue and it will move even faster. Another thing is Philippines is 80% lower than Hong Kong's rate, or even Singapore, or even Tokyo in Japan, which means that the growth rate in the future is very, very much possible, even with this pandemic that is going on. Now, to give an idea of our properties per se, because of its sustainability factor, and I would go from a past development that we have finished before, moving forward to ongoing properties that we are selling. Aria Residences has been turned over for 6 and 7 years already. And up to today, it is still the most sought after residential building. And up to today, it is still the first and only LEED Gold certified residential building in the country. Why is that? Any other developer can offer the big windows, but can they offer the double glazed big windows? That is different. LEED talks about every specific finishing that you provide. For example, the wood flooring. If the wood flooring has to have an FSC certification. When I say FSC certification, it says that your supplier must have a certification that they are doing reforestation or replanting to be able to recover the wood that they used for their products. So it goes down into detail like that. So which is safe to say ARIA will still be the only LEED Gold certified building for quite some time to come. Sivina Villas, this is our project in Laguna, right beside the LaSalle University campus, Laguna campus. Property value has increased by 20% since we launched just last November, just a few months back. ARTHALAND Century Pacific Tower is our office building that has been turned over for about a year and a half now. And we house the biggest names of multinational companies from Amazon to BHP. And we have one of the highest rates, not only in BGC, but of the Philippines. And yet we were fully leased out a few months before building completion. Because the international companies, ING is also part of our building, and they are all now LEED certified offices as well, which will be the same way to Cebu Exchange and Savia Financial Tower, which we are currently developing and is under construction. Now, according to the World Green Building Council in 2018, increase in value by 7% additional in the first year is what they expect for sustainable buildings, including, according to IFC in 2019, IFC again is the International Finance Corporation by the World Bank, higher sale premiums of up to 31%. Also, a higher rental income to about 8%. So these are important factors on why you should invest in green developments or in green buildings. I believe my time is up and we shall be open for some questions. Mitzi, thank you everyone.
Thank you very much, Oliver. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I forgot to inform you before the start of the presentation. Yes, you may actually open we are open to questions. You can just type it in the Q&A portion. That's the button right below your screen or in the chat box. We had some questions that we received earlier, like one, Oliver, is how much you think it would cost to install some solar panels?
Okay, there are different suppliers out there, and it depends on the capacity that you want. But to give you an example, a house of about our project in Laguna, Sevina Park, the 4-bedroom unit is about 185 square meters. Put it at 200, round it off to about 200 square meters. For a solar panel to cover the entire electricity expense, it will cost you about 350 to 400,000 pesos.
Okay.
So that is the panels and the installation.
Okay, so an additional question on the solar panel. So does this run for just morning? How about the evening?
Okay, there are different types of solar panels, if I may discuss a bit. So there's one wherein I mentioned you sell it to the grid. Wherein, let's say for example, you get power from the sun in the morning, and then you use the consumption, and whatever is not used, you sell to the grid and you get it back via refund in your billing with Meralco. The other type is when you install batteries. Now, for batteries, you need space in your backyard or in your lawn to be able to accommodate this, because these batteries will store the energy that you get, the excess energy that you don't use, and you can use it some other time. But the thing is, you will need a lot of space because it is not just one battery that you need. You will need maybe like 7 or 8 big ones. So that's the difference between the two, and it depends on how big your house is and where you want to install it. And if you have the area for the batteries, you can go for one or the other.
Okay, another question is how do you achieve zero carbon in a building?
Okay, yeah, there are a lot of ways, but the best way is going for renewable energy. So like what I mentioned, first is you have the solar power, but if you cannot, because it's a huge building and you don't have enough space, you would get power from these hydro-powered plants and geothermal, basically. There are already companies such as maybe Aboitiz and others who provide geothermal energy. And by getting from them, you are very sustainable and thus making it zero carbon.
Okay. What is the difference? What is the difference of rental rates of a green project versus an ordinary or a usual traditional?
Okay,
Project?
by actual experience in our building, which was done and already leased out, we are on average at least 10 to 15% higher at the minimum. There are a few that we reached 20% in terms of difference, but I would say 10 to 15 would be safe.
Okay. There was a comment here. Maybe you can just add on to that, Oliver. Very basic to a green building is orientation, especially to a tropical country like the Philippines. Orienting the building properly will achieve a lot in comfort and energy savings. by reducing the heat load. It was a comment by one of our attendees. Maybe you can just add to that.
Yes, actually that's correct. It's not only the orientation that will help in terms of the heat, but it also helps in terms of the wind pattern, right? So one example, I guess, if you're familiar with area residences, let me stop this share and uh, um, our building forms a V because it's a two-tower development. Now the V not only orients the two buildings away from the direct sunlight, but it also creates a wind tunnel in between to make sure that the airflow goes through the units when you open your windows. So yes, that is correct. The orientation of the building will help a lot in terms of being able to save in electricity and in power.
Okay, another attendee said, in the green building, what type of wastewater treatment facility is being used? Chemical-based or organic-based technology?
Okay, well, I think you can separate between foreign buildings in other countries and here in the Philippines. The thing here in the Philippines is the wastewater treatment facility is most of the time centralized by the area. So for example, the entire Makati, the wastewater treatment plant is located in Magallanes, right? And so does, let's say, for example, if you talk about Arca South, there's a separate centralized wastewater treatment facility for it. And I would say as of now, for those wastewater treatment operated by third parties, majority still use chemical-based technology. There are some who use organic, but the thing is with the organic-based wastewater treatment facilities, there's a specific capacity that it can handle. And as of now, with the large capacities, you will need even bigger spaces, and I think that is not available. So that is something that actually each developer, and especially if you're creating an estate, will have to study and look at it more.
Okay, do unit owners get a copy of the certification when they invest in your properties?
We can give a copy of the certification, but there's a separate plaque that comes to it, which is you have to pay for it. So that's separate. But yeah, we can provide you a copy of the certification that we have.
Okay, does ARTHALAND plan to pursue WELL certification for existing and future developments? What would the target certification level be?
Okay, for WELL certification, yes, all future developments will be WELL certified. And yes, we are also trying to get the certification for our existing buildings. Now, the minimum for Arthaland will always be gold, and we'll work our way towards platinum if possible. But the minimum is gold. That is a commitment from our company.
Um, given the size, given the same size of structure, how can we compare the cost to construct with the green features, including solar panels versus regular construction features?
Okay, it depends on how many features that you want to add in terms of sustainability. But I would think the average will be about 8 to 12% more expensive if you want to build in sustainable features to your project, whether it's your home or it's a building or any type of development. So there's a premium of about 8 to 12%.
Okay. With almost everyone being in a work from home setup, how will this impact office space rentals?
Okay, so that is a very nice question. Now, as mentioned earlier, there are two ways to go about it. Number one, the big multinational companies located in the US or in the UK who normally outsource to the Philippines, big companies look at the bottom line and they will need the operating expense savings to be able to recover from what happened today, which is the COVID pandemic. Outsourcing will be a big factor for our real estate to recover. And we see that since the big multinational companies are now looking for ways to save, and talent is cheaper and better here in the Philippines. Remember, there are some jobs that, for example, people in the US or people in the UK would not want to do. In the US, people still think that, for example, a call center job is a temporary thing wherein you work there for about 3 to 6 months while you're looking for another job and leave. In the Philippines, it's actually a career, right? So outsourcing will be a big factor. And since they will need to save in terms of manpower cost and other operating expenses such as rent, which I mentioned earlier, were still lower than any other Asian country, then that would help the outsourcing and the office business. Another thing is that social distancing, um, particular to the multinational companies, they have a specific requirement. Like say, for example, for every 5 square meters, we have 1 or 2 person there in their office space. With social distancing, they will need to be able to spread it out, right? So instead of needing 200 square meters office space, they now may even need 300 to 400 square meters of office space. Now, yes, maybe 20% of the company or 30% of the company might start working at home. But for multinational companies who will need, number one, the connectivity, the network, and the safety of their data, working from home is not a very good option. They will still need to go to a place centralized wherein the network is very sufficient, which is happening right now. During this pandemic, the hotels, there are quite a few hotels in BGC and they're fully occupied. Why? Because the BPO and the multinational companies are actually housing their employees in the 2 to 3 star hotels because they need to contain them, and they need still them to go to work. It's still different from them working at home. So I think, yes, the office market should be able to last this and should be able to recover fairly quickly.
Okay. A very nice question here. Is it a good time to invest now?
Okay, let me put it this way. Real estate developments, don't always think of real estate developments as a short-term investment. You should always look at real estate as long-term because it's a very stable investment. Right now in the market, general market for pre-selling, you don't see huge discounts yet or people doing rush sales of their projects. Meaning dipping down the prices by 30% or 40%. You still don't see that in the market today. There's still a backlog in terms of housing requirement in the Philippines, about 5 million units, and that's a lot. On office spaces, just yesterday we got 3 inquiries for our office building in BGC, which is unfortunately fully leased out. So requirements are still there, but to be honest, yes, it has softened a bit. Every industry was hit by COVID. It would be wrong for me to say that real estate is not hit at all. But the thing is, I think now is the time because the recovery will be quick soon. As of now, if you look at the studies of ADB, Asian Development Bank, and others, they're still looking for the Philippine economy to rebound by 2021. That's a big factor. If you can rebound by 2021, that means there's a very big upside. That's number one. Number two, for Filipinos, about politics. 2022 is when the May elections is coming, and that includes the presidency and the Senate seats, congressional, and everything. That's when our economy always goes up during elections because people spend. Campaigns are very expensive. So you have 2021, which is a good recovery date, and you have 2022 when wherein the elections is coming. This will push the recovery even faster.
Okay. Can Pogos buy or lease office spaces in your buildings?
Okay. Our office building, for example, Savia, is located in Taguig, wherein Taguig does not allow Pogos to operate. So in Savia Financial Center in Taguig, no, it does not. For Cebu Exchange as well, as of now in Cebu in general, the Pogos are only located in Mactan and Mandaue, not in Cebu City. I think the government has not released any licenses for Pogos in Cebu City per se as of the moment. So I don't think it would be possible. Another reason why differing from Pogo as of the moment is the stability. Anytime Pogos can come in and go, and which happened before even this pandemic. Every time there's a threat from China government that they want Pogos to leave, an entire building could lease all their can lose all their tenants. And what will happen to the value of the building? What will happen to the lease rates of the building? So we'd rather go with multinational companies that can offer you a longer and more stable lease income.
Okay. What certification system is official to the Philippines? Is it LEED or Verde? Why can't we have only one?
Okay, I think it's for the Philippines it's Verde. What Verde did was get the qualifications from LEED and then turn it into the Philippine way of work and living. So it's made compatible to the Philippine industry. Why not only one? Because the specifications are different. Remember, we have to continue to adjust and adapt to what others have, not only with what we have. We need to learn more about sustainability. And as the foreign market adjusts, we have to adjust accordingly together with them. And if they formulate the same way, if we formulate a new specification here that would help sustainability, the same way if they formulate a new sustainability specification in LEED, then we would want to be able to adopt both at the same time, because both of these may help the development, not just one.
Okay. This may be coming from somebody who's familiar with our project, Oliver. In Savina Park, if you want your 2 or 3 bedroom to be LEED certified, will it be processed by the company or by the unit owner?
Okay, we can help you out. We know the actual suppliers that we use. Actually, we recommend that you use the same supplier because of cost. They're already there doing all the installations for the other units, so why not use them? You can save on what they call preliminary expenses to move in their people. Yes, we can help you, but the contract will be direct from the supplier and you. ARTHALAND will be more of a in between to make sure that we can help you implement it the right way.
Okay, and our final question, are ARTHALAND office buildings PESA certified too?
Yes, our office buildings, okay, the one in BGC, that's PESA certified. The one in Cebu is already PESA approved, board approved, but the one in Arca South, the Savia Financial Center, does not have PESA accreditation. Remember, there's this decongestion policy or program that the government is doing, right? And to be able to decongest Metro Manila, they started to give out PESA accreditations outside of Metro Manila so that the businesses can go out. This is actually just very timely, if I may say so. With the pandemic here, business continuity plan is very important. Okay, so when you say business continuity plan, if your office is 100% located in one building and in one area, if a lockdown occurs, and let's put it worst case scenario, the most awful earthquake of all time, an intensity, let me exaggerate, 20 happens and buildings fall down, you will not be able to operate. And building a business continuity plan assures you of being to operate during these times of problems, wherein you now locate your skeletal or your satellite office in a different location. That's where Cebu comes in, actually. Cebu is a second largest business district as compared to Metro Manila. And they have the international airport, they have the infrastructure, they have the network requirement that Metro Manila has. So actually being able to push the business towards the provinces is a very good idea as of the moment.
Okay, so thank you very much, Oliver, for this very informative seminar or webinar, as we call it. If you have more questions, please, you may inform your sellers or the person who invited you, and we would gladly send you some replies personally. Now, if you don't mind, we're going to send you, we're going to show you now a short clip on our project. It's called Savina Park in Laguna. Mark, go ahead.
It's hard for me to imagine when this place was a piece of sugar land, but it was always instilled by our parents that stewardship meant doing things in a way that was sustainable for the future of a country and our children.
This community will be the first community in the country that will have LEED neighborhood development and LEED home certification.
What you want to do is bring good design to as wide a company of people as is possible. Good design should not be the exclusive area of the wealthy, so to speak. It should spread.
We changed our paradigm from future-proof by design to building sustainable legacies. And Savina Park will be a sustainable legacy for the people that will start their lives in Savina Park, to the investors that are placing their trust in ARTHALAND. We certainly want to thank our partners for helping us build a sustainable legacy in ARTHALAND.
Okay, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. And for those who requested for a copy of this webinar, your specific seller or the person that invited you will be sending you one very soon. Again, in behalf of ARTHALAND, thank you very much and good afternoon to all. Goodbye.